Okay, so today we are talking about wet bags. I kind of thought a wet bag is a wet bag is a wet bag, and that's kind of true to a point. I don't think you need to freak out about your wet bag purchases, but I do think if you're going to be shopping for some and you want to kind of invest your dollars wisely, there are some things that are helpful to be aware of that I kind of wish I had known before I just started collecting wet bags. By the way, if you're brand new to cloth diapering and you're kind of like, wait, what is a wet bag? What do I use a wet bag for? They're basically waterproof fabric bags, and you put your dirty diapers in them. Most people, I think, probably have small ones that they take with them when they run errands, if you're cloth diapering outside the house. But you can also use them as your permanent dirty diaper storage if you have like a large hanging wet bag, which I'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the video. I have a few different brands here, and I will be doing very quick reviews over which ones I like, which ones are my favorites. But for the most part, I just wanted to highlight a few features for you to be aware of as you're shopping. The first is, probably to me anyway, the most important feature that I look for is a high quality zipper. Specifically a YKK zipper. YKK is a brand. If you look on the zipper pull, if it's YKK, it will have YKK stamped on the zipper pull. And if a company is using a YKK zipper, they will most likely put it in the description of their wet bags. And if they're not stating it's a YKK zipper, then they probably aren't using a YKK zipper, because they do cost more to put onto a product, and it is a positive feature that manufacturers want to highlight if they are using. And you'll see these on your clothes too. A lot of garments, they'll say, oh, YKK zipper. The reason you want that is because they are more durable, they are more sturdy, the teeth hold up better, they have a much more fluid glide to them. And the last thing that you want on a bag full of stinky, poopy diapers is for your zipper to break, or for your zipper to not shut, or not open. And that has happened to me. So at this point, I would not be purchasing a wet bag unless it specifically has a YKK zipper. The companies that I have in my stash, and I'm sure there are others, that I know for sure you use YKK zippers is going to be Rumparooz, Smart Bottoms, and Thirsties. I have found that the kind of cheap Amazon brands tend to not use YKK zippers. For example, this one bag I have in particular, I thought the print was really cute. It's by a company called Flockthree, which I think is a Chinese brand off of Amazon. They don't use a YKK zipper. And you can hear the difference. They catch sometimes. I've had this zipper get stuck on me a little bit. And so, by contrast, this is a Rumparooz wet bag, and this zipper is very heavy duty. Music to my ears. So that would be the first thing I would say to look for. Another important distinction that I've noticed in wet bags is the difference between a double PUL wet bag and a single PUL wet bag. I'll just use my Rumparooz again. Again, the double PUL wet bags have 2 layers, and the way they do the sewing construction is that the seams are on the inside between the 2 layers, so there's no exposed thread here and potential place for moisture to kind of wick out, and in theory they will leak less. Or can stand up to a heavier duty load. They do make for thicker wet bags though, but it is a nice thing. Personally though, not all single PUL wet bags are bad or inferior. In fact, I would say my absolute favorite wet bag is the Rumparooz, or KangaCare is the parent brand, wet bags. And they do what they call 3D wet bags. So they are kind of round shaped, which actually makes them hold a lot more than just a typical flat square bag. And they do something really interesting with the inside of theirs. So their PUL is very soft, and it's a little bit on the thinner side, but they reinforce their seams. So I don't know how well you can see it here, but the seams are covered with PUL or plastic, or they're sealed in a way so that even if this was full of very, very wet diapers, the threads are protected from moisture and you aren't as likely to have anything leak out through these seams. And I really like that these are very soft and very thin because I can really bunch them up in a tight little ball, throw them in my diaper backpack, and they don't take up a whole lot of room. And as I mentioned before, I like the shape, and they tend to use much bigger, thicker, wider zippers on their wet bags than some of the other brands like Smart Bottoms and Thirsties. So that's another reason why I really like these bags. Another feature that I would encourage you to look for is a snap handle. So again, back to my KangaCare Rumparooz bag. Here is the way they've opted to do their snap handles, right? And then this is the Smart Bottoms bag, and they've got a snap here. Also very nice. Let's see where my Thirsties is. Here's a small Thirsties bag, but you can see also have a snap. And the reason why this is nice is because it allows you to hook it over the headrest in your car, your stroller, your diaper changing table. It's really nice to have, as opposed to, let's see if I can find one. This is one that I got off of Etsy that doesn't have any kind of snap on it. So I'm a little more limited in using this bag if I want to hang it from something. You may see some wet bags advertised as wet dry bags and wonder what's the difference, what's the advantage, should I get a wet dry bag instead of a wet bag? Wet dry bags just have two compartments. So this is an AlvaBaby wet dry bag. The wet compartment is up here, this big compartment, and then what is typically considered the dry compartment is the smaller compartment down here. I have used them interchangeably. It's not the end of the world because they're all made of, you know, the same material. But that's generally how they're supposed to be used. And I personally have not found that having a wet dry bag has really been all that essential. If I am bringing out a bunch of diapers with me for the day, let's say I'm going to be gone to the beach, running errands, what have you, and I need to bring, you know, half a dozen diapers with me. I may be able to fit half a dozen diapers here in this big compartment, but it's really challenging to try and squeeze that many diapers into the small compartment. And that's, you know, what I'm starting with, and that eventually they end up in the big one. And so I just find that I have better luck bringing two bags, the clean diapers and then the dirty diapers. The only time I would say the dry compartment is nice to have is if you are going to the beach and this isn't necessarily going to be used for diapers. Instead, I use it for, you know, my sunscreen, sunglasses, my keys, my phone, and then wet swimsuits can go in this one. So that might be the advantage for a wet dry bag, but for the most part, I would just personally not even bother with getting those. One obvious feature that didn't really click for me until after I'd bought a few wet bags is that the PUL that they use in their wet bags is the same PUL that they use for their diaper covers, the outside of their pockets, or their all-in-ones or all-in-twos. So if you happen to like the feel of a company's diaper covers, for example, that's pretty much most likely how your wet bag is going to feel. And again, the big distinction that I have noticed that with has been in particular Rumparooz, because they do have a very soft PUL, so their wet bags are also very soft. And also with GroVia. This is my GroVia Pail liner, actually. It's not a zippered wet bag, but same material that they use. They have a very fabric-y, very stretchy PUL that they seem to use. And I noticed that's true. I have a lot of their organic all-in-ones and very similar to their pail liners. So I would assume their wet bags are this way as well. I actually don't have one of their wet bags, but like I said, this is their pail liner. And I've been very happy with this also. Now, real quickly, in terms of hanging wet bags, this is the Smart Bottoms hanging wet bag. This is a much bigger bag, and as you can see, it is designed to hang from either your diaper changing table, maybe you hang it someplace in your laundry room. And the straps, interestingly, I didn't notice this when I was purchasing it online, the straps are sewn on both sides. So you have the snaps coming around and anchoring on opposing sides, which I think is a smart move on their part, because then that means not all the snap tension is coming from one side. I think it makes it a little sturdier. And then the zipper, as you can see, goes all the way around. So you can open this thing up from both sides. There's two zippers here. And typically when I use this just for dirty diaper storage off of the changing table, I have both in this position down here, and then I will just open it up a little bit, chuck the diaper in, and shut it. I've never had an issue with this thing, you know, leaking or having smell problems at all. And it does hold a really good amount of diapers. So I have been happy with this if you're thinking about trying hanging wet bag storage at home. This Smart Bottoms one has worked out really nicely for us, and I do like the design. It's very easy to unload all the diapers into the washing machine. So if you don't like to touch the dirty diapers when wash day comes, you can literally open this bad boy up, and this is huge, right? And just chuck them all in, flip this inside out. It's 2 layers, or two sides, 2 layers, comes really clean. So that's a nice advantage with that. I believe Thirsties and GroVia also make hanging wet bags that I have heard good things about, but personally have never tried. So I would say in order of favorites, in terms of construction, design, etc., like I mentioned, my absolute favorite is going to be the KangaCare 3D Wet Bag. This is their full-sized, larger wet bag, and then they do make a mini that is a little bit smaller. Unfortunately, mine are all in the wash at the moment, but I use the minis for being out during the day running errands, and they do hold, I could probably shove half a dozen diapers in there, 4 to 6. This one holds at least double that. I've used this when I've traveled and I'm doing wash every other day. I can put a ton of flats in this thing. So that one's my favorite. I also really like the Smart Bottoms and the Thirsties bags. I would say they're all almost identical in terms of quality, in terms of construction. This is a Thirsties bag. This one's a little bit smaller. Again, very high quality. These two are both double PUL. GroVia, like I said, I have the pail liner. It's been great quality. For a while, we were storing dirty diapers just in like a big open container, and I was lowering this in so that I could just pull the diapers and take them downstairs for wash day. As far as other brands, the AlvaBaby, I would say, you know, if you really don't see yourself using wet bags much at all, and you know, you've got an Amazon gift card to burn, they're not a terrible buy. I would say, you know, like I mentioned, they don't have the YKK zippers, but the zippers aren't horrible. They're not the worst zippers. And they've held up fine, and they do have the snap. So, you know, not a bad buy, but not the best buy out there in my opinion. The other brand that I showed you earlier was the Flockthree. This one I would not buy again, just because the zipper really sucks. And if I wasn't such a sucker for the print, I don't know that I would have bought it anyway. And then the other ones that I have, this is a Lullaby bag. I really like the size of this bag. It's gusseted down here, so there's a lot of extra room. It is a wet dry bag, but I will say that I was very disappointed with the zipper on these bags. These are pretty flimsy, thin zipper pulls, and I don't know. I loved the print, and so I wanted to give it a try. So if you're shopping for wet bags, hopefully that was helpful for you. If there's a question that I neglected to answer, let me know down in the comments. But hopefully that kind of gave you some idea of how they operate in real time when you're not trying to make a decision through a screen, because I know sometimes that can be really tricky. All right, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.